ramp up as we get into the colder months. Parking expenses, we do expect to be low through the end of the year, based on the time period that the parking lot was not staffed earlier this year, and we're still in a reduced staffing model, just based on needs right now.
Anybody have any questions or comments? Okay, thank you. And with that, we can move on to non-agenda items. The first of which is appointment of a secretary and assistant secretary. As the nominating committee have a suggestion on that?
Sorry, Gil. So yeah, we from a nominating committee perspective, we sent around information to the group, basically where we stood from a 2020 perspective, and just to solicit any suggested changes from the Aeronautics Board trustees, and there were no changes. So at this point, the nomination committee recommends that we leave it as it stands currently.
Okay, so that would include the secretary, assistant secretary, board members, committees.
That's correct.
And also the officers, the chairman, vice chairman.
That is correct.
Okay, so we have a motion then from the committee, which really does not require a second. So we'll go ahead and have a roll call vote unless there's a discussion.
Bert Ardema.
Yes.
Gilbert Culver.
Yes.
Greg Hamley.
Yes.
Cecile Much.
Yes.
Eric Rankin.
Yes.
Mark Weiss.
Yes.
James Brooke.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Thank you and welcome all aboard. Next item is the schedule for 2021 meetings. I think everyone should have those. And probably the only thing that might warrant a little explanation would be the July and November.
Sure, I'm happy to do that for you, Gil.
Okay.
I picked out the July one. The second Thursday would have been July 8th, which is the week after July 4th. And that's given that it's that same week and a lot of people take off that week. I just made the decision that maybe the 15th would be better. Also, the 8th is a little early in the month in the sense of we wouldn't have any information on any employments or anything like that. Airlines don't have to report those until after the 10th. So that was for July. And again, from a staff perspective, this is just a recommendation to you guys. If the 8th is the decision, that's fine. And then the November one is the 11th would have been the day. That is a county holiday now. We get the day off. So we would not be working on that day. It's Veterans Day, the 11th. So thought moving it to the 18th would be suitable.
I have no issues.
Okay, anybody have any comments?
I just have one question, Gil. So do we have a sense on if these are going to be in-person meetings, virtual meetings? Is there flexibility built into how it's not really the schedule, but just do we have a sense of how that's going to go in 2021?
I don't have an answer for that. Craig, do you know, is the county giving any indications of what might happen?
No, at this point, without any real news on a virus, we're I'm at a loss to explain what's going on next month. To be honest, I think one thing that'll come of this whole pandemic and has already come. I mean, the Senate passed a law giving a little more flexibility for public bodies to meet. So I would sense that there would be some flexibility moving forward. But exactly how that looks, I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, thanks. I asked because we just went through this with the Metro board, and we have pretty specific policies set up now for 2021, and then after certain dates. Apparently, there's some legislation out there that gives public bodies the ability to do a certain amount of virtual attendance through the end of this year and then into next year. And so I just ask because it probably doesn't impact the dates, but it'd be helpful for planning purposes if we are able to start thinking about that.
That's right. And I think, one thing that can happen is, updating of the board bylaws for how this can happen. For example, even if we are meeting in person, working, making sure we're doing it right, of course, but maybe the allowance that board members, as long as there's a quorum in session, in person, other board members might be able to join remotely. I know that's how we had set it up at Flint, as long as there was a quorum in person. So there is flexibility that can be done as long as they're outlined in your bylaws.
I think we're covered on the, an individual signing in on a meeting that has a quorum in attendance.
Okay.
I'm not certain now that I recall somebody did it, but I don't remember whether they had voting rights or not.
I don't know. I think Jim might have. I think Jim might have done that. So, I know as long as we're in phase 3. Thank you, Lisa, for sending me a note. As long as we're in phase 3, the meetings will be virtual. Until that changes, then we won't. We just don't know at this yet. So, get back to the screen there. There we go. Okay.
Okay. And I guess the November one, being a county holiday, of course, the 18th is my holiday. I'll be deer hunting, so we'll see.
We'll see how we can make it work. We can figure something out.
All right. Then I would entertain a motion to approve this schedule.
So
I'll
moved.
make a motion. Oh, second.
A motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion? And a roll call vote, please.
Ardema,
Yes.
Gilbert Halver,
Yes.
Dave Buskirk, Greg Hamlink,
Yes.
Cecile Much,
Yes.
Eric Rankin,
Yes.
Mark Weiss,
Yes.
James Woodruff.
Yes.
Motion carries. And next on the agenda is a budget adjustment request.
Okay, this request is for 2020, and this mainly relates to the CARES Act revenue. It's creating a line item for that, as well as adjusting many of our operating revenues based on what we're seeing this year. Most of those line items came in my projections as I would expect them to. We didn't have any negative surprises. The rental car revenues have continued to be strong this year. So there's a slight adjustment there for those revenues, but not as much as some of the other line items. There were 3 operating line items that are also in this request that are not related to the CARES revenue: the terminal janitorial supplies, FOP salaries and fringes, and adding the budget for the escalator handrail sanitizing equipment. There's also a few other items in there not directly related to the CARES revenue, adding in the LEO reimbursement that was not previously budgeted, but those funds were awarded this year, an easement revenue, and eliminating the AIP local share expense for the 2020 grant. That grant was carried forward. Offsetting those line items is a reduction in carryover revenue. And then lastly, this request allocates capital reserves into the project line items that they were used in for this year, and most of the unspent capital reserves into IT equipment for terminal IT upgrades.
Quick question, Amanda.
Mm-hmm.
The LEO grant, is that a state reimbursement or is that from federal FAA as it relates to law enforcement?
It is a federal grant. We've received it for many years. The last couple of years, the funding's been a little uncertain, so it wasn't initially budgeted for this year, but it did come through, and it looks like we will keep receiving that.
Okay. Which
Mark, it's through the Transportation Security Administration.
Yes.
It's an LEO reimbursable grant. It's been around for 15 years or so.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, then I will entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
I'll support.
We have a motion, we have a support. Do we have any further discussion?
It's Cecile, I'm sorry, just for clarification. So then what is the net effect for the down revenues and the adjustments we're making? Is that the 1.1? Is there a net effect, Amanda?
The net effect, let me look here. So we are reducing carryover, which is kind of our balancing line item for our budget, by 1.2. And then we're bringing in 3.3 in CARES grant revenue, or about the 1.1.
Okay, so net of the CARES, the amount of money we're using from CARES is 3.2?
3.3, correct.
Okay, and so that leaves us still with a very healthy balance of CARES.
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks. Sorry. I'm out of practice.
Any other discussion? All right, I call for a roll call vote then.
James Woodruff,
Yes.
Mark Weiss,
Yes.
Eric Rankin,
Yes.
Cecile Much,
Yes.
Greg
Thanks.
Hamlink,
Sorry,
Gilbert.
I'm out of practice.
Any other discussion?
I don't think I voted.
A roll call vote then.
James Woodruff,
Yes.
Mark Weiss,
Yes.
Eric Rankin,
Yes. Yes.
Cecile Much,
Yes.
Greg
Thanks.
Hamlink,
Sorry,
Gilbert.
I'm out of practice.
Any other discussion?
I don't think I voted.
Sorry about that, everybody. Y'all still with us?
I'm still here.
Yeah.
A little confused.
I think there's an echo.
A vote so important, we took it twice.
Okay,
I don't know if I voted, but I would vote yes.
all right.
Well,
Motion,
that's tricky when they reverse the order.
Yeah. Right.
motion carries. And next is the architectural request for qualifications.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I have the pleasure of bringing a couple of items to you this morning. The first being a request for the chairperson to approve and or sign an agreement with Tower Pinkster to provide the airport with architectural services. This kind of came up with a discussion about how many projects we have in the making right now as far as moving forward with building improvements and just some aging facilities that we have here and some modifications that we are seeing come down the line. So we thought just bringing in consultant for some smaller projects that we have, some projects that aren't really eligible for AIP, FAA sponsored projects would be a good idea. So we really went into it looking for a local firm with some depth in their abilities to complete pretty much as they can in-house. So going into it with that perspective, we had 7 firms respond to the RFQ, which was really good, and 7 very highly qualified and capable firms. I was really impressed. Craig and I went through them pretty in depth. And I think we both came to the same conclusion in Tower Pinkster. They were, they have a local office right here in Kalamazoo and project management available here in Kalamazoo. So we're really comfortable moving forward with Tower Pinkster. Just to note that we have not come to any terms as far as a contract goes, that the terms will be negotiated after the approval to move forward with Tower Pinkster. So I believe that's all I have, but I will hear any questions if there are any.
Just to make a comment, Tower Pinkster has a very good reputation in the community. I don't know what year they were founded, but they've been around a long time and they do a lot of work for Western. So everything I've ever heard about them has been good.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah, they did include a long list of references, and their history includes a work scope that's very similar to what we're looking for. They have a long history of working on airports or with airports, hangar buildings, building modifications, stuff like that. So we think it's going to be a good fit.
I think I have a little concern with the idea of approving a contract when we don't know what it's going to cost. That seems to me to be a little out of the norm for. Sure.
So the services will it'll be an agreed upon on-call basis. So there's no. So go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Gil, it's the arrangement that we have with our engineering consultant, in the sense that the board is, and the approval process is that we're looking for the board to approve the selection and give you the authorization to sign the contract. And then anytime there is a project that needs to be done, that project would still be brought to the board for approval, just like it's done with Mead and Hunt today.
Is there an hourly rate in your contract?
No, because there's no contract at this point. It's a request for qualifications. So we were just seeing what qualifications the firms had. We weren't asking for any of the rates. Again, those rates would be negotiated per project.
But we're only going to negotiate with one.
Correct. The intent of doing this is similar to when you would do, for the engineering portion, is that that way we don't have to go out And, for every time we have a project, go out and try to find 3 different firms to potentially do it. It really is more of an efficiency standpoint from a staff perspective.
Do you have any idea? I mean, Jim asked, is it is there going to be an hourly rate when they come back to this, or, I guess I can comprehend the idea of saying, yes, we think they'd be a good one to do, but then I'd be nice to be able to come back and say, okay, we negotiated a deal.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what the cost would be.
Yeah,
You
you
could
would
say what it would be for a project, but here's what it's going to cost hourly basis or whatever the case is. And then we'd be in a better position to go ahead and say, okay.
Right. And those rates would be negotiated as part of the contract. Just like we did with Mead and Hunt, I'll say 2019, I believe it was 19, when it was last done here. And then we would be able to report to the board, these are the hourly rates. And we're going to make sure we, get rates that are competitive. That was also one of the thoughts of having a local firm. We'd be able to get and pay the local rates versus maybe having to pay a rate for a firm in Chicago or Detroit or wherever they might be. That comes in.
I think all of the architects and probably the engineers as well, most of those people in that professional kind of business have a book of standard rates that they have published, so that whoever approaches them to do a project can look and see what the rates are, and perhaps you negotiate from that book of standard rates. So I wonder if maybe that could or would be included in when we make the deal with them.
Yes, and understanding that they're already doing business with the county, so we would be able to compare, what rates, they're using for the county. I'm sure I could get that information from them as well. Plus, I would reach out to our engineering firm just to get a sense of, do these rates look right, and plus just use my own experience working with these firms in the past.
I would be surprised if the county hadn't negotiated rates with the Tower Pinkster Group.
If they had or had not.
I would be surprised if they didn't already.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
that's right. Well, they're doing work with them right now, so I would imagine that their contract already has rates at, hourly rates.
Well, I think it's a good idea. I'd like to see something along the published rates book or the county's rates with the Tower Pinkster included.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if the county bid them competitively when they're working on, I think, the courthouse project downtown. They're working on a couple of projects with the county, and maybe their bid analysis too, just to get a sense of where that might be.
Sure, and I don't know their selection process, if they were, if it was bid as a request for qualifications or a request for proposals. That one I don't know initially, but I can assure you it would have been bid competitively. Just based on the county's purchasing policy.
Yeah, and like the others have said, I enjoy working with Tower Pinkster, and good firm, good people, have done good work. I think it's just our job to go through and make sure that the pricing is competitive. And I will know too, they've done recently some pretty substantial work for our chief competitor in Grand Rapids. So just make sure that's known and that is our competitor.
Right, right. They've done work there. In fact, all of the firms, I won't say all of the firms, I believe 5 of the firms have done work at other neighboring airports that submitted because obviously we were looking for local firms and looking for those who had some airport experience. So they all brought that. 2 of the firms that were actually from outside the area who had not done work in the area. So.
Sure.
Would there be any problem with, let's say the board approves allowing the staff to go ahead and negotiate this agreement and then bring the agreement to the board for approval, when you could then give us some of this comparison information and discuss how the county may have already negotiated rates and we're getting the same rate? I'm just uncomfortable with
Okay.
approving a contract when I don't know what it's going to cost.
Okay. I mean, I certainly, so then we'd be looking for approval of the selection of Tower Pinkster as the architect.
That'd be my suggestion, is that,
Okay.
you know, you talk to 7, you're suggesting this is the best one, and we can approve that as opening the door to say, okay, negotiate a contract, and then bring the contract to the board for approval.
Okay. I mean, I'm happy to do it. It's something we can do, and then give you a comparison.
Yeah, unless there's some rush on this, I guess that's.
Well, I mean, there's no super rush. There's a couple projects that Eric's been chomping at the bit to get because they impact projects down the line. But I mean, I think we could wait till January.
What are those projects?
The key one is the ARF station. The ARF station doors, the bay doors to get the fire trucks in and out, are not wide enough to allow for the new fire vehicles. And so we're in the process of ordering one, but we certainly don't want to order one and it won't be able to go inside the fire station. So that's the key project. I can't. That actually might be the only project, but it's the key project that we've been wanting to get done, so we can go ahead and order a fire vehicle.
There's some other like modifications to our snow removal equipment building to accommodate some additional storage out there that we had in mind. Some hangar building improvement stuff that they could have taken a look at. None of that is as time pressing as the ARF doors, obviously, but a few things in the chamber. So.
Okay, any other ideas?
So we're modifying.
Does this request need to be rewritten or modified, or can we modify on the fly, I guess would be my question.
You know, I think if you were to go to the county and see what kind of an arrangement they have with Tower Pinkster, I'm thinking that they probably have a rate book that they use, or perhaps it's on a per project basis, but they use Tower Pinkster a lot, and so they must have some handle on what it costs them. And if we could just include that in the motion, saying that we will use whatever the rate book that the county has arranged, we could probably just tie the whole thing up today.
I know in the medical field, they use the term reasonable and customary. I don't know if something similar to that, I suppose, what you're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, the process that we're, I guess going is I'll say common. I won't say common here because I haven't gone through the process here through this airport, but approving the selection and then allowing staff to negotiate. I mean, I'll assume that was the way it was done with Mead and Hunt, just because of that process is governed by, it's an FAA governed process, how you select your engineering firm through request for qualification. So that's kind of what the path we were following with this one. We're certainly happy to go a different path for board comfort. So we'll go ahead and I guess just seek authorization to negotiate and negotiate with Tower Pinkster to provide architectural services, and then we could bring the contract for approval to the January meeting.
If you're comfortable with that, Craig, then I would seek a motion to approve as stated.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a support?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? I'll call for a roll call vote.
Kurt Ardema,
Yes.
Dave Buskirk, Gilbert Halver,
Yes.
Greg Hamlink,
Yes.
Cecile Much,
Yes.
Eric Rankin,
Yes.
Mark Weiss,
Yes.
James Woodruff.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next is the marketing proposal.
Yes. So as you recall, we selected Elemental Media to be our marketing services firm back in August. We have the first order of work, if you will, and that's why it's Amendment 1 to the marketing agreement. Basically, it's specific to approve the Elemental Media creative proposal. The creative proposal is in the amount of $54,500. Specifically, the project is to begin work on updating the airport's creative programming to include video production, photography, graphic design, and the rewrite of radio spots. The money for that is already budgeted. We're not asking for additional money. This is just money that's already budgeted for marketing purposes. The idea behind it is that we haven't spent our marketing because to date as much as budgeted, really because some of the opportunities for marketing are not there due to COVID. Some were canceled, et cetera. So Elemental is in working with them, and as I've been creating the marketing plan, these are some of the things that we thought would be necessary and a good way to move forward. So I'm happy to entertain any questions.
I don't want to sound too repetitive from what I said about the architectural firm, but Western has worked with Elemental Media on several cases, and they do some very good work. I've seen a lot of their products, and I know several companies that use them. So they're very creative in what they do and have a very good reputation.
And they are going to provide all those things that you listed, rewrite radio spots and so on,
Yes,
for the 54,000.
correct. Yeah,
Okay.
all the services, video production, which would include 3 commercials, updating of the photography to get stuff from around town, some graphic design work, specifically to some of the promotion stuff that we have in place. And some of the, I'll call them wall boards for lack of understanding or term on my part. And then an update on the radio spots.
And Craig, based on your experience, is that type of marketing still relevant? Is there still a value to those types of, I know we're kind of updating what we had. Is there still a value to that?
The short answer is yes, because they're going to take some different approaches. For example, the video production isn't going to be, 3 commercials, just flat out commercials for TV. Going to do some different things that'll give us some flexibility to do things on digital. and on the web. Well, that's digital, and then in some others, I'll say avenues than the traditional sense. So video production is video production. They're going to have to do it, but it's really the idea is they're going to be more of a digital bent to it.
And is there a component of our marketing program that's geared toward marketing toward the airlines themselves versus to the public?
The short answer is yes, and that's going to be how some of this is used as well, because one of the things we're including or have discussions is marketing Kalamazoo to the airlines. So, for example, some of the graphic design I have, I want them to do some graphic design work. So when I communicate to the airlines that it's in a standard form and format that's visually appealing and full of data as well. So that's one of the things there. Radio spots are really just local radio spots specific to our Western Michigan work that we've done in the past. They just need to be updated. They haven't been updated in years.
Sure. And I asked that question, and I know I've mentioned this to the board before, but we, in the line of business that we're in, we manage some shopping centers, and we try to target most of our marketing toward the tenant piece of it, the business piece of it. So we feel that if we can bring those businesses into the shopping center, they're the ones that draw the public in, not the facility itself, but the businesses. And in this case, we've got a facility that people come when people come to use our services, and those services are provided by the airline. So as much as we can continue to promote ourselves to the airlines and be creative with marketing Kalamazoo, marketing the community, our facilities to the airlines, I think there's a great value to that. And to me, it's greater than marketing to the public, because the public knows we have an airport for the most part, and will show up if we provide the services that they're looking for. So just that's kind of been my belief with marketing, and not that I'm opposed to updating what we have now, because I feel there's a value to that as well, but just want to continue to push on that we allocate dollars to marketing toward the airlines as well.
Yes. Yeah, it's a big component. In fact, they've already been involved in updating some of the presentations that we've used for the airlines.
Great. Thanks.
Any other questions, comments? All right, I would entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion, have a second. Any further discussion? And a roll call vote, please.
Kurt Ardema,
Yes.
Dave Buskirk, Gilbert Calver,
Yes.
Greg Hamlink,
Yes.
Cecile Much,
Yes.
Eric Rankin,
Yes.
Mark Weiss,
Yes.
James Woodruff.
Yes.
Motion carries. All right, next on the agenda is the BOIP proposal with CTS. And I have to begin the discussion on this by making a statement of conflict of interest. As a principal in that organization, I will not be participating in any of the discussion nor the vote. But I don't see any reason why I can't continue to manage the system unless somebody knows different.
You mean manage the meeting, proceed over the meeting?
I mean, I can turn the meeting
Yeah.
over to Jim if that were necessary.
I can't see any reason why you couldn't proceed as the chair.
Okay, just so everybody understands that I do have a conflict of interest. So go ahead with your proposal.
All right. Okay, so asking to approve and authorize the vice chairperson to sign the proposed amendment to the current agreement we have with CTS to include the addition of voice over IP phone and wireless internet services. The amendment will include key features such as improvements to our remote phone line access, which is great with all the remote work we've been doing recently and will be doing in the future. It's going to improve wireless internet speeds, including what we have available for public use throughout the terminal. And will include also physical device upgrades to what we have at our desks, including the maintenance of those devices. Let's see, the amendment includes an additional $596.45 to the recurring monthly service charges we have currently with CTS. The vendor that we're moving away from, this is a competitive price in comparison with what we had or have currently. So, and the amendment will include a 36-month term. So, I believe that is everything. Just to highlight the key features once again, and kind of underscore one thing. This will improve the service that's being. However, there will still be update to our physical devices around, such as like wireless access points. There's still some physical devices here that need to be improved upon as well, to get our Wi-Fi connection up to modern standards, I guess I'll call it. So this is a kind of step one in doing that all. So
Eric, this is a standing contract, but yet you said you were transitioning something from someone else?
Yeah, our current contract to provide these services has expired. We're on a month-to-month basis with our provider right now, and kind of transitioning over to CTS.
Okay, so it says this amend standing contract with CTS to include VoIP. So we had a separate contract for wireless internet? And who was that with, can I ask?
Yeah, I serve out of Grand Rapids.
All right.
So Eric, question, you said this was done in conjunction with the Kalamazoo County IT, or they were involved as well. So I'm guessing the county uses this service as well at other locations?
Correct, yeah. They work with CTS specifically. They don't have the voice over IP services specifically, but they have a lot of other connections. They provide phone service and Wi-Fi and whatnot throughout the county.
Okay.
All right, any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, then I would entertain a motion for approval.
I would move approval.
Or
I have a motion, we have a support. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Real quick, who supported? I didn't hear it.
Eric.
Eric, yeah.
Thank you. Kurt Artema,
Yes.
Gilbert Calver,
Abstain.
sorry. Greg Hamlink,
Yes.
Cecile Much,
Yes.
Eric Rankin,
Yes.
Mark Weiss,
Yes.
James Woodruff,
Yes.
Dave Buskirk,
Yes. All right, motion carries. And welcome, Dave.
Thanks. I had a little bit of a problem. I was on with my phone. My laptop that got fixed was set at the wrong time, so it wouldn't come on. So I finally figured it out. Electrician ought to be able to do that better than that, but I got here anyway.
Okay, and the last item on the non-consent agenda is strategic planning execution support services.
Sure. Thanks, Gil. So specifically asking for the approval of the statement of work with Dams and Associates for the purpose of continued support to keep our strategic planning efforts on track. As the board's aware and has participated in through our visioning process, we've been working with Dams and Associates for that work. One of the things that I think is important is after the strategic planning work is done, is to have somebody to keep us on track. So I asked Peter to put together a statement of work that would basically allow or asking him to come in and have quarterly meetings with staff, the leadership team, which would be staff, and Greg is his participation on the leadership team, to just go through how are we doing, what are some of the hurdles that we've had moving on, from quarter to quarter, and to keep us on track. So the work would be by Peter specifically providing coaching throughout the year and conducting the quarterly meetings with airport staff and leadership team to coach us and ensure accountability. The agreement in the amount of $8,000 would be for calendar year 2021.
Okay, well, at least in my own observations, I found him to be a very well organized, thoughtful person in terms of creating focus. And I think that's really part of the question or the issue that we're dealing with, is that it'll give you a chance as the whole staff to get together, and he's pretty darn good at asking the right questions and getting people to think through what their plans are. And so I was impressed with him.
Good, thank you.
And Gil, I guess I'd make a comment from the board perspective and having that direct involvement. I would agree with your comments. Very focused and helps to drive discussion, thought process, and kind of reassure us the direction we were going with putting that strategic plan together. So yeah, I was impressed with what he did. Probably a whole lot more in depth than I ever would have imagined. Let's put it that way.
Any other comments?
And I'll just mention, I've been involved in a couple of other boards with Peter's team, and we did follow-up work with Peter and had good success in seeing that go from the idea concept phase into actual integration into our operating procedures and systems. So I would say I've seen the success firsthand with him before, and I think there's a value to the service he provides.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll support.
Have a motion and a support. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Kurt Ardema,
Yes.
Dave Buskirk, Gilbert Calver,
Yes.
Greg Hamlink,
Yes.
Cecile Much,
Yes.
Yes.
Mark Weiss,
Yes.
James Woodruff.
Yes.
And motion carries. Okay. That concludes the non-agenda items. Do we have any unfinished business?
Just the information. Wanted to give you update on how we're doing on the visioning and the strategic plan that we spent time in October. Eric, if you could pull up the slide 2 of that PDF document I sent you. And I'll just walk you. So while he's doing that, I'll talk to it. So we met on October 7th, had what I would think was a very productive, as well as energizing. I think that was an important component. It was really energizing for staff to hear the board's thoughts and be part of the energy, I guess, if that's the best way to say it. The process that we worked in coming up with mission, goals, and vision. Since that meeting in October, we've had 3 other meetings with airport staff and as part of the strategic leadership team, which Greg is representing the board of the executive committee on that. And basically we worked to come together with really bringing the board's ideas into one document that made sense from a flow, from a wording, made sure we got everything together. But just as important, came up with action plans and some key metrics that will come out of that as well. So a lot of work, about probably close to 8 hours of work over 3 work sessions. As you can see on the screen, this is what we'll propose to the board. Now, none of this needs board approval, any action. It's just buy-in from your part. And if there's any questions, but our mission is we complement economic growth and quality of life by safely, conveniently, and efficiently fulfilling the air travel and transportation needs of Southwest Michigan. Then that boils down into some goals that came out of the meeting, and then we kind of just boiled a lot of those into 5 different components. The airport maintains financial stability and drives operational excellence. We want to grow the annual number of passengers to 350,000 from the current approximately 300. That the airport is that airport property is fully utilized. So the stuff that is available to use for whatever purposes that we're making sure that it's being used. We also want modern facilities that meet current and emerging customer needs, and that the public has a positive perception of the airport. These culminate into a vision, a 5-year vision to increase annual passengers, as stated, secure scheduled air cargo service, and then have all developable land shovel ready versus having it all rented, because you never know what the market's going to be. But at least we can do what we can on our part to make sure it's ready. And then we brought the values into place, and that is, as an organization, we value communication, transparency, customer focus, and that's internal and external customers. As an airport, our customers range from passengers to the air traffic controllers, to Duncan Aviation, to the other people who use the airport, hangar tenants, and then financial stewardship as well. So that's what we've brought it down to from a discussion standpoint. Peter is pretty much, I'll say he's got about 95% done a strategic plan draft that we'll be able to share with the board between now and really the end of the month. He's pretty much done with that. And does anyone have any questions about it? I'm happy to ask, and I have the team, the staff, and as well as Greg as well, who's all been participating.
I really do like the sound of the mission statement.
Good. That's work of Peter getting you guys all in focus, and it didn't even really take too much wordsmithing. It was a good discussion on October 7th that led into this.
Any further questions, discussion?
All right, more to come.
Well, we look forward to it. This is good progress.
Okay, good, thank you.
Is there any new business?
None from staff.
Any board member have any new business to bring up? All right, if not, then we're ready for your report, Greg.
Okay, thank you. From the director's perspective, a lot of work spent on the airport visioning, and so I don't need to repeat that, but I'm very pleased with the work. And I think the key word is the energizing. I think it's really doing some good stuff to keep us energized and focused. So I've got a couple other things that I'd like to hit on. Just getting an update on air service. We don't have the numbers yet for October, but based on TSA screening data, we estimate October enplanements to be about 4,400, which is up about 1,100 passengers from September. That's really primarily the addition of United. American was in for the first week, but then they stopped their service on October 6th. I'll talk about them in a second. For October, we were down roughly 63% compared to normal operations. Again, these are based on TSA statistics that I don't have the actual enplanement statistics, but TSA gives us daily screening numbers. So I kind of massage that information to get those numbers. And then November looks like so far the first 12 days again, or well, actually first 7 days based on TSA numbers, because there's a little bit of a lag on the numbers. We're down 68%. Again, it's tracking national trends. Quite honestly, if we didn't have Tuesday and Saturday at our airport, we'd be doing pretty well above the trends. But Saturdays are, we're averaging being down about 80%, and Tuesdays being down about 75%. So day of week gets us, but that's not uncommon. Saturdays are slow at a lot of airports, and as well as Tuesdays.
You have fewer flights on those days, Craig?
Definitely fewer seats, yes. Yes. Again, just an update per airline. United is, well, all of the airlines. So if you were to go in and try to buy a ticket, say for January or February, you're going to see a whole slew of flights. American with 3 flights, United with 3 flights, Delta with 4 and 1 or 2, depending on day of week, to Minneapolis. What the airlines are doing is that about 30 to 45 days out, they're making an assessment on what has been sold and adjusting their flights and fleets accordingly. So that's what's happening to us as you look into December, but certainly in November now. United's operating primarily one flight a day, and again, it's based on tickets sold. Delta's still doing about 4 flights a day to Detroit, and 1 to Minneapolis, although they were out for 2 weeks at the end of October and the end of beginning of November. And American has pushed out their return date. It was going to be November 3rd, and they pushed it out to December, and then now they pushed it out to January 5th. And they've done that at all of the airports that they've made the announcements prior, and then have said that that's the way it's going to be unless there's a CARES package that comes out that's happening. So I'm talking to my peer, obviously our air service consultant, but my peer at those other peers at those other airports as well, and we're all hearing the same story. And when I was at the takeoff conference 2 weeks ago, our air service, our network planning person for American down there just kind of a shrug of the shoulders. A lot of that decision making was done outside of network planning. So they're just waiting to see what comes of the industry, and they're wanting they're wanting a vaccine as soon as possible as well. So that's it to the specifics of those airlines. I'll give you guys a chance to ask questions on air service before I go into the takeoff conference. So, any questions on our current air service? Okay. I participated in the Takeoff 2020 conference, which was held out in Denver 2 weeks ago, I think 2 weeks ago. And we met with 6 airlines, 2 of our existing airlines. 2 of those airlines met virtually, United and another one. It was interesting. The overall tone of the meeting, it was less than normal attendance, certainly, just because of just COVID, really. And also some airports have been really impacted budgetarily. But the tone was from certainly a lot of my peers is, this has been the first meeting since COVID happened. Everything else has been canceled. Just want to get out and just hear what the airlines are thinking. So that was kind of our perspective from the airport side. The airlines were really wanting to hear if we had any news as well. Their news has been consistent in the sense of, hey, this is really hurting us, and we're needing to fly less. We don't know when we're going to come out of this, and again, month-to-month type scheduling instead of looking out quarterly or 6 months. Some of the airlines are looking at some opportunities for some one-off things, depending on what their business strengths are. And also, I will say they're also keeping an eye on down the road, 22, 23 type stuff. So it wasn't entirely a doom and gloom, but it was not your normal meeting and presentations. Our presentations really focused on selling Kalamazoo, as opposed to going in there and saying, "Hey, United, I need larger airplanes to Chicago," because right now they're parking a lot of the planes, and they've got their own issues going on. So we really were focusing on selling Kalamazoo, which was a good approach given that a number of those people were new. There's new people coming in as the airlines are going through some layoffs and consolidation of departments. So again, a good opportunity to meet with the folks. So, but even though it was a little subdued. Any questions on takeoff?
I have a bit of an, go ahead.
Go ahead, Gil. Go ahead. I was just going to ask Craig. So I've seen, I know we talked about this at our kind of visioning session that we had, but the return of leisure traffic seems to be far outpacing business, and we've never had a big push for leisure in our airport. But I've seen airlines. I saw Southwest even, which has always been kind of assumed is not coming here to Kalamazoo. I've seen them entering some markets that would be a little bit unusual for them, some smaller markets, and focusing directly on the leisure customer from Midwest states to Florida or other Northeast areas to Florida. Just wondered if you have any sense on if is Southwest still out of the picture, or is there an opportunity or worth reaching out to somebody like that to see if the reshuffling that's happened from COVID gives us an opportunity?
Sure. Well, they wouldn't take any of our meeting requests, so that's one of them.
Tells you something there, yeah.
Yeah. What I sense is there's seeing some opportunities to steal some market share from some other airlines in some of those. They've got they're posturing aggressively to come out of this. So it'll be interesting to see what happens for them, especially as they take on some of their larger legacy peers.
Yeah, and where I saw them enter, I mean, so they're entering Sarasota, which is near Tampa and Fort Myers, and I know they had pulled out of there when they did the AirTran merger and then operated briefly and then pulled out. And now they're back in and they're focused again on that leisure customer. And it sounds like, I mean, they've got airplanes and staff that they need to utilize, and they need to find some routes that could potentially make money. So obviously it's a long shot, but that leisure traffic seems to be where the opportunity is right now in the near term.
In the near term, yes.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had a bit of a question, I guess, based on a half of a observation, and that's thinking along the lines of, let's just call it customer loyalty. And I can see the idea that somebody's loyal to the Kalamazoo Airport because it's local, yada, 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 but they also are probably flyers that are loyal to a carrier, and for this, that, or the other reason. And so what I wondered in thinking about the American proposition is, how does that maybe affect the airport's popularity or attraction, as you wish, if there's people that are strongly attached to American airline for whatever reason? Do they somehow then going to lose interest in the airport? It's not that they can't go, because Delta goes to the same place that American is not going to. So we've filled the gap, but is that really going to affect the long-term impact of having a carrier pull out entirely for 4 months? I'm just curious about some what others might think about that.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you that one of the questions I asked American is, when I met with them, is, are you making decisions to come back based on numbers? Because one thing that, and United kind of experienced a little bit of this is, you might be selling tickets for January, but you keep pulling the flights, and then are you really going to make good sound decisions based on the fact that you keep pulling the ability to sell tickets? And they said that really isn't as part of the decision-making process. Now, that's for network planning, who wasn't involved in the decision to pull. Consumer behavior, and others can, and I think Cecile probably could really provide some good input. Consumer behavior, they're going to be slaves to the airline more so than slaves to the airport. I've just seen that time in, time out. Unless they totally pull out, then at that point, I think then they might, switch their allegiances, because otherwise they have to drive to, neighboring airports to fulfill their flights.
And I think that's what is underlying my concern, is I could better understand if an airline would say, well, we're going to reduce our flights from 3 a day to 1, but let's at least stay in the market so we don't lose that loyalty factor. And that certainly would have been better for us.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, there's nothing we can do to maybe change that, but it may have a factor in our marketing and our strategies going forward.
Sure.
And I got to think, Gil, that the airlines are looking at those numbers to see how many people are of elite status in the market. And, based on the secondary market that we are, I would say that it is probably easier for them to pull it from us than from a Grand Rapids, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
Although I have high status on American because I was on their board, and I have a leisure trip for February, and I just had one when I was gone. And I did find that I had to go to another airport in order to be able to make the connection in Chicago to the flight that I needed to my destination. So I would agree, Gil, that you're spot on, but I also know that the airlines are, they're painted in a corner with this virus and the inability to keep their people employed, because again, the money isn't there. I mean, they were losing $1 million a day, American was, back in the summer. And so I just don't think they have a choice. They have to say, we're cutting. I wasn't surprised when I heard that they had extended it all the way to January. And I do think they'll be back, but Gil's right, but I don't think it's going to change it.
Mhm.
It seems like outside of a major second CARES Act that targets existing airlines, it's going to be a potential just reset for the industry. And I think it's in our visioning session, we were able to get through some of it, but we just need to be positioned so that when if that reset takes place, we're ready to jump in and be in a position to capture whatever that new form of the industry looks like and the remnants that are left from what existed before.
When you guys met then in October, did you talk about the virus? I think when we originally started with the lockdowns and the elimination of services, we thought that it would come back like flip a switch. Okay, the virus is over. And we've clearly seen since March that that's not the case. And so then you're going to have the waves of, potentially more lockdowns, depending on the destinations, along with the slow recovery based on people either accepting vaccines or not. I just think too, there's so many people out there who are so anti-mask that they're boycotting. They're just not traveling. So I think that this is going to take a lot longer than we thought to recover. And I think you guys probably concluded that without me back in October. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Craig.
Oh, I'd say, yeah, we don't anticipate a speedy recovery out of this. It's going to take a little while.
Okay. But a lot longer than we all thought.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we talk about the impacts and the spokes, but don't forget the hubs have also reduced the number of connecting opportunities. I mean, flying recently. I mean, I saw that O'Hare during a weekday, I think they had 3 hub time, 4 through the day. You're talking about an airport that normally has 8 through the day. So walking through there was pretty sparse. So those are going to have to get healthy again before they start coming right out to the spokes as well. So.
And I just think we need to look for the innovators out there. Who's going to find the market that does exist? Because in a business environment, there's going to be somebody out there who finds where the business is happening. And we need to be positioned to go after that carrier, whoever it is, whatever they're doing.
Right.
I think we are. It's just in the future next year, is the service going to be leisure based, and do we need to go target somebody to get flights to Florida and flights to Las Vegas? And we got to figure out where that is and be in front of it so that our competitors don't go out and pull all that service so we can't go after it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any further discussion or comments?
No, Gil, I think your the loyalty flyers are all business people. And when you look at the big three, our business models have all been geared toward the business traveler. And as Kurt is saying, we are seeing an uptick in leisure travel. I would probably say American is doing the best as far as load factor, carrying the leisure traveler. Right now with United, the way we're making money is through cargo right now. So we're just flying 777s and 787s pretty much to Asia and to Europe, but everything is in the belly of the airplane. And then that's the way they're making revenue to stay afloat.
Good insight.
Any other comments?
Hey, Gil, I guess, and on the business traveler side of it, I mean, our company, Stryker, for example, we still have there's no travel allowed. You could go through the process to get an approval, but I would doubt, unless you're at a pretty high level within the company, to get that approval. So we have a travel ban in place through the end of the year. I would guess that's going to get extended. They haven't announced that yet, but I think that's a driving force, obviously, for a lot of businesses is still that, they have that ban in place and we can't travel. So that drives that business side. And so to the leisure side, some people are getting a little stir crazy and they want to get out and go. But on the business side, we're just not traveling, not via the airlines anyways.
Okay, any other discussion?
I just have one last item to bring up, and that's related to COVID. The state of Michigan, OSHA came out with an order prohibiting. Well, I'm going to butcher the language, but basically having employers come up with a policy prohibiting people from working in the office unless they have to. So as a result of that, Amanda, Eric, Bill, and myself have reevaluated how much time we need to spend in the office. And so that's why you're seeing me remotely, Amanda remote, Eric is in as part of a normal. So you're not going to see us in the office as much. The idea being that we can protect others by not being there as we're coming in and we've had a few scares. We haven't had any positives yet, but we've had a few scares and some self-quarantining. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up for all of you. And then as the county also just went to a different phase and are now county buildings and are by appointment only. So as the numbers get worse, we'll be following along. But from an airport perspective, we're still operating normally, except for those of us who are in an administrative capacity in the office. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. And with that, we move on to member time. Kurt?
So I just appreciate the hard work of the team and the staff and during this challenging time and enjoyed the visioning session and look forward to seeing what comes out of that. Thanks.
Cecile?
I have nothing at this point. Thanks.
I think we lost Dave.
No, I'm still here.
He's still here. Okay, we heard some rattling.
I've got nothing. Thank you.
Okay. Eric?
No, nothing. Just stay safe and enjoy your holidays.
Greg?
So yeah, maybe just one other quick comment regarding the visioning session. So when Craig asked me the question, hey, would you like to represent the board? I probably should have asked the question, what does that entail? And I didn't ask that question. But I will say the process was very thorough with Peter, as I mentioned before. Honestly, when I would see the invites come up and I'd look at the time frame, I'm like, how are we going to why do we need so much time? And then we'd sit through the session and going through it, all of a sudden our time was up. So a lot of effort was put into it. Again, with Peter's leadership, really helping us along through the process. I think we've got what I would call a good result, and look forward to seeing that complete document. That the board can review it and provide some additional input on it. So I think it gives a good path forward, something we probably haven't had in the past. So it's probably long overdue, and I appreciate the receptiveness that the airport administration, Craig, Amanda, and Eric have had in going through that process, and obviously, the board as a whole being able to participate in as well. So looking forward to that coming to fruition. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Mark.
No comments.
And Jim.
Thank you. I have nothing.
All right. With that, I think we're done. We'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.